We've been talking about how the stakes are just so high leading up to these high-level talks in Singapore. What do you think would be a success for President Trump coming out of this?
Well, that's a great question, and I think the most important thing that we could factor in is, will he get the North Koreans to definitively agree that they're going to dismantle, not freeze, dismantle their nuclear program and have the specific methodologies and a timeline that they will do so? But it's also going to be very important when you're measuring success to ensure that unless or until that timeline is completed, we and our allies keep up the economic pressure that brought the North Koreans to the talks in the first place.
There's also this issue of long-term security too, Bruce, and you've wrote extensively about not just the fact that they're building up their nuclear arsenal as a threat to their neighbors, but also when it comes to the proliferation of weapons to rogue nations like Iran and Syria. How can the U.S. administration actually ensure that this proliferation is contained?
Well, that's a very tough thing to do. The most important thing the United States can do is, of course, to get our allies on board with us, especially those allies on the UN panel of experts. But next, we also have to go after the financial networks that support the proliferation. And they're not just in China. They're in places like Vietnam and Lebanon and Mozambique, Singapore, Malaysia. Go after those banks. Go after those front companies. So when I talk about pressure on North Korea, that kind of pressure is not something where you can just throw some sanctions out and then forget about it. You have to continually update the sanctions, as President Trump has said he's going to do, and you need to enforce those sanctions, including other sanction-like activities like the Patriot Act, Section 311, which means a bank can't do business with the United States if it gets caught doing business with North Korea because it's designated a state sponsor of terrorism. It will take constant upgrading and maintenance of these sanctions to keep the pressure on North Korea, even as we agree to dismantlement, because the pressure should not end until the dismantlement has transparently occurred.